Hello and a very good morning. Welcome to Rajya Sabha Television. I'm your host Frank Pereira. As the hunt for the suspects in the Paris shooting continues, militant group Boko Haram has unleashed a wave of terror in Nigeria. Hundreds have been killed in the town of Baga. We'll get you details on both these stories, but first up, a look at the headlines. Boko Haram militants unleash a fresh wave of terror in Nigeria. Hundreds killed in indiscriminate firing. Some reports say thousands have been shot dead. Mahinda Rajapakse concedes defeat in Sri Lankan presidential elections. Early trends gave him 41% votes opposed to 58% to Maithripala Sirisena. Jammu and Kashmir looks headed towards governor's rule with no party able to cobble up numbers. Home Minister sends governor's report to the Prime Minister's office. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi reaches out to NRIs to invest in India at Pravasi Bharatiya Divas. Our top focus on the bulletin this morning. Days after Boko Haram captured a key town and military base in the northeast Nigerian town of Baga, the militants are on a rampage, razing several towns and villages. On Thursday, the town was hit by fresh assault as militants indiscriminately killed hundreds. Some reports put the number of those killed in the thousands. Residents are fleeing homes and say that they had been unable to bury the dead as corpses littered the streets. Most of those, who fled were trapped on islands on Lake Chad. Here's more.
Islamist group Boko Haram attacked the Nigerian town of Baga for the second time in a week, leaving hundreds of bodies littering the streets. The insurgents shot residents indiscriminately and burned buildings on Tuesday night, and killings have continued hence. The group had on the weekend captured the town and the headquarters of the multinational joint task force. Boko Haram is now in control of Baga and 16 neighboring towns after the military retreated.
My heart aches at the thought of the suffering of the girls and boys kidnapped by the brutal extremist groups Boko Haram and Daesh. I would like to make a special appeal to the conscience of all those involved in senseless violence. It is in your power to end these acts and to save lives.
The attack comes even as Nigerian President Goodluck Jonathan launched his re-election campaign. He has been criticized for his inability to end the insurgency. His opponent at next month's elections, former military ruler Muhammadu Buhari, has blamed government corruption for the lack of firepower. But the head of state blames his predecessors for not investing enough in defense.
Nigeria must move forward. Nigeria is for the youth. Nigeria is not for old people like us. The youth must redefine this country. The young generation must redefine this country. We must take this country to where we want to go. Nobody can push us backward. The past is past.
Boko Haram has also launched cross-border attacks into Chad and Cameroon, and in a recent video had threatened to step up violence. The group launched a military campaign in 2009 to create an Islamic state. The conflict has displaced at least 1.5 million people, while more than 2,000 were killed last year. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
In some more international news now, Mahinda Rajapakse has conceded defeat in the presidential elections. The counting of votes is still underway. Early trends showed that main opposition leader Maithripala Sirisena was leading with over 58% of votes against incumbent Mahinda Rajapakse, who got only 41% vote share. The country's election department said that the results from only 11 of the country's 160 polling divisions plus a large number of postal votes gave Maithripala Sirisena a lead against Rajapakse. Rajapakse called presidential elections 2 years before schedule in a bid to consolidate power after his party's popularity went down in recent by-elections. Well, uncertainty over government formation in Jammu and Kashmir continues. The state appears to be moving towards a spell of governor's rule after Governor N.N. Vora sent a report to the union government yesterday. Caretaker Chief Minister Omar Abdullah has sought to be relieved from the post. The report has been sent to the Prime Minister's office by the Home Minister. The report is understood to contain 2 or 3 suggestions, including the option of a spell of governor's rule in the wake of no party being able to cobble up the required numbers. The governor's report came a day after Omar met him in Delhi. Omar is understood to have told the governor that the state needed a full-time administrator to deal with the situation along the border with Pakistan and providing relief to flood-affected people in the Kashmir Valley. Meanwhile, the state Congress has appealed to the PDP and the BJP to shed their reluctance and enter into an alliance to provide a popular government to the state. Former state government minister and senior Congress leader Shyamlal Sharma said that those given the mandate by the people should form the government.
And Congress are playing gimmick with the BJP. And this alliance between BJP and PDP was never in the roots. It was floated only to create a sensation.
Meanwhile, in fresh trouble for Nagaland Chief Minister T.R. Ziliang, 11 of his Naga People's Front legislators, including 2 ministers, 4 MLAs and 5 parliamentary secretaries, have resigned, demanding change of leadership. Despite this, Ziliang has claimed that his government is stable. In their resignation letters, the 11 legislators said that they are quitting from their respective portfolios with immediate effect, as majority of NPF and DAN legislators have elected Kaito Ai as the new leader of the NPF legislature party. They also asserted that Ziliang no longer enjoy the support and confidence of the members of the House. The Chief Minister is yet to accept the resignations. This is the second time within a span of 7 months of the Chief Minister's leadership has come under a cloud. Meanwhile, former Delhi Chief Minister and Congress leader Sheila Dixits has fanned a political controversy when she said that the Congress party was ready to support an Aam Aadmi Party government in Delhi if in case of a hung assembly. Now, she justified her comments saying that it was logical that the Congress would want a stable government, and if the need arose, AAP would be party's choice to keep communal forces at bay. Dixits' comment was rubbished even by her own party colleagues, who called it her personal opinion. The other party in question, the Aam Aadmi Party, also played it down, saying it was a sign that the Congress had already accepted defeat. The BJP, meanwhile, also took a dig at Sheila, calling AAP Congress's B team. The party used this as an opportunity to ask Delhiites to choose them and reject the Aam Aadmi Party and the Congress.
Congress will not at any cost support Aam Aadmi Party or any other party, because we strongly believe that both believes in the ideology of RSS and are the part of the same coin. That is why when they tried hard to have a government with Congress, then also we didn't had any talks with them. So there is no question of going with any of them. In this election, Congress will expose both this party, and we are confident that we'll form a government in forthcoming election.
मुझे लगता है कि शीला दीक्षित ने अगर कहा है तो सोच समझ के कहा होगा, और ये उनका कहना आम आदमी और कांग्रेस के रिश्तों को दर्शाता है कि उनके बीच में कितनी घनिष्ठता है. तो ये सब जो संबंध कहने के हैं वो दिखाने के अलग हैं और व्यवहारिकता के अलग हैं.
I think it's quite amusing that the Congress is offering support to the Aam Aadmi Party. Congress, which is unlikely to get even a single seat in the upcoming Delhi elections, they are not even in a position to offer support. Number one. Number two, Sheila Dixits' statement herself actually concedes that the Congress realizes they are not even in the race for the Delhi elections. This is a fact that the Aam Aadmi Party has been stating for a long time, and now even the Congress has conceded that the Delhi Assembly elections are a direct fight between the BJP and the Aam Aadmi Party.
Well, it's time for a short break now, but coming up, the hunt for 2 suspects in the Paris attack continues. French police scour villages near the spot they were last seen. Stay tuned, we'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha television. Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi reached out to India's expatriate community, terming them precious capital with an inherent emotional link to the motherland. Modi formally inaugurated the 13th Pravasi Bharatiya Divas conclave, stressing the importance of this bond of love to transform India.
Shubham karote kalyanam.
The Indian diaspora's link to the motherland has been the focus of Prime Minister Modi's speeches in his visits overseas since he became Prime Minister. As he inaugurated the 13th Pravasi Bharatiya Divas conclave in Gandhinagar, a gathering of over 4,000 delegates, Modi elaborated on the potential of this relationship.
विश्व भर में फैला हुआ जो हिंदुस्तानी नागरिक है वो आज के वैश्विक परिवेश में भारत की बहुत बड़ी ताकत है, बहुत बड़ी पूंजी है और इस पर हम जितना ध्यान देंगे हम आसानी से विश्व फलक पर अपनी जगह बना सकते हैं.
In the last few months, the government has cleared lifetime visas for people of Indian origin, visa on arrival facilities and electronic travel authorization. At the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas conclave, Modi urged Indians abroad to take active part in economic and environmental development in India, assuring them of massive potential waiting to be tapped.
आपका ज्ञान, बुद्धि, सामर्थ्य जो कुछ भी हो, इसके साथ जुड़िए. इस महान सांस्कृतिक विरासत से विश्व को परिचित कराइए और जिस मंत्र को लेकर के हमारे पूर्वजों ने विश्व की कल्पना की थी, हम ही तो लोग थे जिन्होंने सबसे पहले विश्वास से कहा था वसुधैव कुटुंबकम, whole world is family.
This year's event marks 100 years of the return of Mahatma Gandhi to India from South Africa, after which he launched the freedom struggle. A new 100 rupee coin and stamp were launched. A slew of government measures look to evolve that to the development perspective. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
Well, joining me for a chat this morning on this very subject is senior journalist Priya Ranjan Dash. Good morning, Priya Ranjan. Thank you for joining me on the program. Well, Narendra Modi seems to be pulling out all stops to try and reach out to the Indian diaspora. He strongly believes that the Indian diaspora is the way to go forward as far as India's economy is concerned, isn't it?
Yes, India has a strong diaspora of 25 million people around the world in 190, 200 countries.
Almost 200 countries,
yes. And so, in the past, India has relied upon the diaspora's economic strength to bail it out from, foreign exchange crisis, for instance. In 1991 and also in 99 after the second Pokhran experiment, the Millennium Development Bond, for instance. So, and the one is, the NRI deposits and the remittances. India today is the largest recipient of remittances from people, Indian origin people and non-resident Indians who are abroad. And so it's already, the diaspora is a matter of strength for India. And in difficult times, India has relied on this capital, as the Prime Minister calls it. And for the Prime Ministers, this is also familiar territory. He's quite comfortable. One thing is, the Make in India campaign and other such campaign of opening up India to the world in general, and to get investment and participation of world in India's development. That an additional point with the Indian diaspora is the cultural and the emotional and the familial ancestral links that these people have to India. And so can be expected to, everything being the same, they would be expected to have a greater participation, sense of involvement in India's development.
Yes.
And Prime Minister Modi is good at invoking this. And the government, this government, after several years of this particular event of Pravasi Bharatiya Divas being a kind of a routine event every January, this government is laying special emphasis on it, and rightly so, I would say. India must maintain that link and try and develop it.
Yes.
Because every additional support that India needs for its development is welcome.
Indeed. All right, do stay with us. I'm going to come back to you for another reaction as well. But before that, let's take a reaction that is coming from a person of Indian origin, of course. Microsoft CEO Satya Narayan Nadella and Guyana President Donald Rabindranath are among 15 prominent NRIs who will receive the Pravasi Bharatiya Samman for their contribution in various fields. These awards will be presented on the concluding day of the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas today. The awards will be presented by Vice President Muhammad Hamid Ansari. Mala Mehta will be awarded for her contribution to the Hindi language. Guyana's president is being awarded for his work for the Indian diaspora in his country. Among the other prominent Indians are Dr. Rajaram Sanjaya, Satyanarayan Nadella, Dr. Lulla Kamlesh and Dr. Nandini Tandon. Priya, Ranjan, coming back to you now, of course, we've seen, like we spoke about it already, that Narendra Modi is pulling out all stops to try and, reach out to the Indian diaspora. And several people of Indian origin who have done extremely well across the world are going to be awarded as well today. But, another question that I'd like to ask you is, of course, we've seen elsewhere in the world that the Chinese diaspora has really helped out China in a big way. Can the Indian diaspora have the same kind of impact here in India?
Well, as I was saying, India has to create the environment for the involvement of everybody, for the involvement of the world at large in India's development. And to the extent the Chinese diaspora has been able to, has contributed to China's growth. That is because China opened up to the world in general and made things possible. In India, since we've started this process, clearly there has been, the foreigners have come in, and also so have the Indian diaspora. So that is, the environment must be there, and surely there is great potential of Indian diaspora getting involved in the development process and contributing to India's growth.
Some of the measures that have been taken by Prime Minister Modi, should be commended. For instance, people of Indian origin now do not have to go to the police station every week to try and, show who they are and prove their identity. So a slew of measures have been announced, and this should begin the process really of a lot more freedom between people of Indian origin and dealing with India, isn't it?
We've had these kind of restrictions or policies and procedures which made no sense in the past. Means it's and Prime Minister has been very quick to implement a series of measures that he announced during his US visit.
Yes.
And so this has, that including the combining of the PIO and the two cards into one,
yes.
and also the introduction of electronic visit authorizations.
Yes.
Yeah. So those kind of steps, and they have been done in quick time. As we know, in the past, from this forum alone, from the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas, various promises were made and various announcements were made several times, but some of them were never implemented and some of them were very slow to be implemented. So that way, this government is trying to create, and I think it has made an impression that insofar as the Indian diaspora, the non-resident Indians are concerned, the government is quite clear about getting their wholehearted involvement in India's development process, particularly for some of the pet projects like the cleaning of Ganga, for instance. And the Prime Minister has been very, very good in appealing to the cultural links that the diaspora members of Indian diaspora members have had with India for projects such as the cleaning of Ganga.
Yes, yes. All right, we'll have to leave to that. Thank you so much, Priya Ranjan Dash, for joining us on the program this morning and sharing your views with us. Moving on now, of course, the Delhi Police Commissioner today clarified that no legal notice has been issued to Congress MP Shashi Tharoor in connection with his wife Sunanda Pushkar's death. This completely overturns earlier reports that Tharoor had been served a notice to join the probe. The Delhi Police Chief said that the investigation is underway and all evidence is being examined. Delhi Police had registered murder cases against unknown men following the final medical report from AIIMS concluding that Sunanda Pushkar died due to poisoning. An SIT has been formed to probe the case. Tharoor, who is undergoing treatment in Kerala, has kept away from the media.
Investigation is a very elaborate process. तो इसमें जो है मतलब ये मिनट टू मिनट हम इसमें आपको शायद जानकारी ना दे पाएं. जब भी कोई ऐसी बात होगी जो आपके लिए रेलेवेंट होगी तो उसके बारे में मैं आपको अपने आप जानकारी दे दूंगा. बाकी अभी कुछ एक स्पेकुलेशन चल रहा था कि क्या नोटिस इशू कर दिया गया है, इसके बारे में मुझे ये जानकारी देनी है. अभी फिलहाल जो मेरी जानकारी है अभी नोटिस नहीं दिया है.
Well, let's take a look now at all the other national news we are tracking in our segment Nationwide. The Supreme Court is expected to decide the fate of Sunil Bharti Mittal, CMD of Bharti Cellular Limited, and Ravi Ruya, the promoter of SR Group in the 2G spectrum case. The court will decide whether the two are to face trial in the case. The two had been summoned as accused by the special court. However, their names did not figure in the charge sheet filed by the CBI, which is handling the case. Delhi has recorded the second death due to swine flu this year. A 30-year-old man from East Delhi succumbed to the H1N1 virus at a city hospital. According to hospital officials, the patient's condition was critical and he was constantly on the ventilator. Meanwhile, 8 new cases of swine flu have been reported, taking the total figure to 31 so far this year. Punjab Deputy Chief Minister Sukhbir Singh Badal met Home Minister Rajnath Singh yesterday and sought the release of those Sikh detainees who have completed their minimum jail term and can be considered for premature release. The Home Minister is believed to have assured Badal that the plea would be considered, but within the framework of the law. Moving on to some international news now. A day after the Paris attack, officers carried out house-to-house searches in nearby villages where the two suspects were last seen. Officials detained and questioned several people overnight in connection with the assault. France paid a somber tribute to the 12 victims by turning off the lights of the iconic Eiffel Tower at 8 p.m. local time. Thousands gathered on the other side of the city in Republic Square to hold a second night of vigil. Meanwhile, US President Barack Obama made an unannounced visit to the French embassy in Washington to pay his respects.
Even as France mourns the death of 10 journalists and 2 police officers in the Charlie Hebdo attack, another tense confrontation unfolded in southern Paris suburbs on Thursday morning. A police officer was shot dead in a shootout. Security officials are still investigating if there is any link between the two attacks.
Il va nous rejoindre et va enclencher l'action publique de manière à ce que l'auteur de ce crime soit immédiatement identifié et puisse être arrêté.
2 of the gunmen who went on shooting spree on Wednesday are still on the run. The key suspects, Sharif and Kochi, reportedly robbed a service station in northern France. They stole food and fired shots. Later on, they drove off in a car, apparently the same vehicle that they hijacked in Paris soon after the attack. French Prime Minister Manuel Valls said that the suspect could strike again. The third suspect surrendered to the police today. Police have also detained a few people in connection with the case.
Demonstrate a perfect cool mood, a perfect calm for all the operation, and they killed at least 12 people and wounded 10 others in just 1 or 2 minutes. So that tells us that they are clearly well-trained people.
French President François Hollande addressed the nation saying that the message of freedom of those killed in Paris Charlie Hebdo shootings would live on.
Que ce message de la liberté, nous continuerons à le défendre en leur nom. Ce lâche attentat a également tué 2 policiers. La même qui était chargée de protéger Charlie Hebdo.
Paris has been placed on the highest terror alert, with extra troops being deployed to guard media offices, places of worship, transport and other sensitive areas. Vigils were held through the night in Paris in tribute to the dead. Several demonstrations were held in solidarity with the victims. Bureau Report, Rajya TV.
Some sports news now. India went into lunch on day 4 of the 4th test against Australia at 407 for 7. Ravichandran Ashwin and Bhuvneshwar Kumar were the batsmen at the crease, and they batted for time after India lost 2 big wickets in the morning session. Australia's total of 572 still seems some distance away, although India have managed to avoid the follow-on. India's session began on a tough note as they lost skipper Virat Kohli early for 147. Riddhiman Saha was gritty as usual but was dismissed for 35 by Josh Hazlewood. Australian captain Stephen Smith finally took a catch. The score now stands at 448 for 8, with the Bhuvneshwar Kumar being dismissed. Let's now bring you up to date with the other sports news from sporting arenas across the world in our Sports Beat. Top seeds Leander Paes and South African Ravin Klaasen qualified for the double semi-finals in the ATP Chennai Open on Thursday after defeating Indian duo of Mahesh Bhupathi and Saket Mainini 1-6, 6-1, 10-7. Both Paes and Klaasen will now take on Spaniards Pablo Carreno and Guillermo Garcia Lopez, who defeated Ricardis Berankis and Mate Pavic 6-4, 0-6, 10-4. Serena Williams and Josh Isner took US into the finals of the Hopman Cup in Perth on Thursday after claiming victory over Czech Republic 3-0. Serena Williams defeated Lucy Safarova 6-3, 6-7, 7-6 to put US 1-0 up, while John Isner doubled the lead by overcoming Adam Pavlicek 7-6, 6-4. The Czech Republic only needed one rubber win to reach Saturday's final, but the US pipped them courtesy of a 6-3, 6-3 triumph in the mixed doubles. Barcelona ended their turbulent days by thrashing Elche 5-0 in the Copa del Rey on Thursday. Neymar opened the scoring for his team in the 35th minute. Suarez's low shot and a Lionel Messi penalty ensured a 3-0 interval lead. Jordi Alba's composed finish and a fierce Neymar drive confirmed the win in the first leg of the last 16 tie. Barcelona will either meet Real Madrid or Atletico in the quarterfinals. Well, after 2 straight losses in 2 different competitions, Real Madrid are now looking to keep the Spanish league lead intact with a win over Espanyol on Saturday. Madrid have a game in hand, but a 3rd straight slip-up could give their lead to either Barcelona or Atletico Madrid. Real Madrid's defeat to Valencia last week ended their 22-match winning streak. Well, that's it on this edition of the Breakfast News. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good day.